I don't tend to like teen films because I find them unrelatable and very cliche. But there's something about Geek Charming that completely captivated me, and I really truly loved it from start to finish, and I wish we had a sequel. This was released in 2011, and it's directed by Jeffrey Hornaday, and based on the novel by Robin Palmer. This is the first time I knew it was based on a novel, so that's pretty interesting. With the script by Elizabeth Hackett and Hilary Galanoy. And what I love about this, there are two things. I love the performances, and I love the visual quality. We have some really crisp scenes, some gorgeous imagery, some pretty interesting locations. There's a scene with a shoe and a shopping mall, which I won't expand on, but I just loved that scene. And I'll read the description from IMDb, which I think gives a pretty good overview of what this is about without spoiling anything. To win a school popularity contest, a high school diva permits a film club classmate to record her popular life, but the film starts documenting her decline instead. So, Dylan, played by Sarah Hyland, who gives a fantastic performance, is your average popular girl who seems to only care about herself and is very superficial. And Josh is making this documentary because he needs to do it for his class, and he basically follows her around and documents her every move, both during the school day and also outside of class. Matt Prokop plays Josh, and I think the on-screen chemistry between Hyland and Prokop is brilliant. Dylan and Josh work really well on screen as characters, even though they are realistically polar opposites. Or are they? As the film progresses, we get character development that is really good quality and believable. There are so many films that give us character development that is forced and cliche and pointless. But with this, Dylan genuinely goes on a real emotional journey. She has a good backstory. She has a. Well, they're not making excuses for her. There is something that happened to her that's quite emotional. But they're not saying this is why she's acting like a popular bitch who doesn't care about anybody else. It's just giving her that little bit something else to show that there are problems underlying and maybe she is putting on a bit of a mask. But as Josh follows her around, we begin to learn more about who the real Dylan is. There are some very hilarious moments where she says really ridiculous things that he captures on camera, things that are ridiculous, like saying the only thing that matters is the perfect dress and things. I'm paraphrasing, but just things that are not true, materialistic and narcissistic. But I think she's a brilliant character. Dylan is a very well developed character. She starts out as one would expect and takes a really interesting journey, but she still remains true to who she is. She doesn't just flip. There's not a switch that just goes off and transforms her into somebody else. She's still always retaining bits of her personality to make it more believable. There are some really lovely scenes. I particularly like the one with the spinning chair, which will make sense when you see it, that I just thought gave us a real insight into who she really is. The fact that it's being filmed as a documentary gives us some really interesting camera angles, a really, really close-up personal look at Dylan as a character. I do think that while the narrative is interesting because she's trying to get voted most popular and it's all in the build-up to that, I think it's definitely driven by Dylan as a character and her development and how her personality adapts to different situations and whether or not she's ever going to let her guard down. And I think that that's really lovely, and when we see it through the lens of the documentary, it's really personal. You do feel like you're watching this true. It feels realistic, it feels believable, and that's what makes it really work. And I really thoroughly enjoyed it. I think the casting is perfect, particularly Sarah Hyland. It just works so well for Dylan. The dialogue is great. I'm not saying every word's perfect, but she says things that are either outrageous and shock, or she'll say things in French, which just gives which actually really interests me because it shows that she's not an idiot. She's got the ability to learn a foreign language and pay attention to these things, and she's not your cliche dumb blonde. She's not blonde at all. So she has she's multi-layered. She's got different sides to her, and it's great to see those unfold. Very character-driven, great character development. Great to see more of Dylan's personality. Geek Charming is thoroughly enjoyable. I really loved it from start to finish, and it's not my kind of film. So that for me is testament to how brilliant it is. It does have one nomination. It was nominated for the Outstanding Directorial Achievement in Children's Programs for the Directors Guild of America. I wouldn't say it's a children's program or a program, but it is brilliant. I do think it's thoroughly worth watching, even if you don't think it's your kind of film. I cannot praise it highly enough. Geek Charming is fantastic.